Pachyderm Labs, from Pachyderm Consulting.
Hi, this is Patrick at Pachyderm Labs with a look at the Microsoft Surface with Windows RT. Microsoft is in the process of reinventing itself to try and become more competitive in the battle for the post-PC world. The first salvo from Microsoft is the Surface. As you can see, the device is tablet-like, but with a decidedly PC versus tablet focus. It's widescreen. It has some ports, like a USB port and a mini HDMI port. And the much touted keyboard covers. This is the touch cover that snap on with magnets. It makes it more like a slim laptop than an iPad. As far as using it, you have to get used to it because it's widescreen, which is a different orientation than most people are used to with tablets. It feels pretty heavy, but in actuality, it's only a few ounces heavier than the current iPad. As far as design goes, it's definitely good looking, in my opinion, but it's a little bit Spartan. It's a fingerprint magnet, and one of my biggest kind of nitpicks with it is this logo on the back. It might be a little hard to see. It has a defect in the paint or whatever the process they used to get it on there is. It starts to kind of splotch and then disappear. So I have about kind of half of a Windows logo back here. That's pretty embarrassing in my opinion. If I was Microsoft, I'd address it and do something to repair it. But they kind of blow it off on the official Microsoft forums and just say that you can get a replacement. There's no guarantee that the replacement you get won't have the same defect, though. The kickstand on the back is another big touted feature of it. It's really nice. It's well made. It's solid and sits flush. Doesn't feel tacked on or gimmicky. Really do like that. It's a smart addition. In concert with the touch cover, you get something almost as good as an Ultrabook with some caveats that we'll get to in a little bit. One of those, actually, I'll say right now, is you can't use it on your lap. So it's not really a laptop. It would be a balancing act to flip this out, put your cover down, and try and type on that. Doesn't work. Another gripe I have hardware-wise is the charger. They wanted to do something magnetic, similar to how Apple has their chargers on their MacBooks, and unfortunately it just doesn't work as well. The magnet isn't really powerful enough to kind of snap into the charging port, and because of the angle here of the casing, that magnet has a hard time fitting into this slot, so there's a lot of fumbling trying to get it in to the charging port. And the other problem is there's a little charging indicator. It's this like dinky white LED that half the time you can't see. So I've quite often plugged it in the dark and thought I had the charger connected properly and couldn't see the LED and walked away and came back to a dead surface that was not charged. That's a real bummer. Let's see. Some of the more useful hardware features, USB port, huge. Being able to stick a USB key in there is fantastic. The micro HDMI port, get yourself a cheap cable. They sell like a $35 one that's supposed to be Surface compatible. It works with just about any micro HDMI cable, and you can connect it to monitors, TVs, projectors. Awesome feature. Back here behind the kickstand cover, there is a very hard to see micro SD card slot. It's kind of useless. You can't use the micro SD to store apps. Really all you can do is throw some music or pictures or videos on there. And really with the prevalence of cloud storage for those sort of things now, it's a little bit anachronistic. It is still nice to have. If you have a camera with a micro SD card slot, you can take pictures off of them and put it on here real quick, although it still seems kind of silly to me. Going back to the touch cover, great to use. I really, really like it. It's definitely worth the hype that Microsoft has put on it. I can type at a much better clip than I can with any on-screen keyboard I've ever used. it does take a lot of getting used to. There's a few things that I don't like. The home keys, for those of you who didn't take 8th grade typing, those are the F and J keys here. They have a little divot that indicates that they're home keys. I really wish that it was more pronounced so that I could more easily get my fingers on them without looking. Other than that, sometimes I have to glance down every now and then to find that my fingers are where they need to be, but I can still type much better than I can with just on glass with a touch keyboard. This gray finish on the back, really weird. It's kind of reminds me of like a sweater or something. It's soft. I guess it's nice to protect the back when you have the cover flipped over all the way. But it's just kind of strange. I wish it was more like the inside is, which is kind of more of a soft touch rubber kind of feel. I think that if the whole thing was covered in that, it'd be a better look and feel. But that's pretty much it as far as the hardware goes. Like I said, it's good looking, kind of plain, gets the job done. As far as software goes, going back to what Windows RT is, it's basically Windows 8 that's been designed specifically to run on low-power processors that you would find in tablets and smartphones. So that gives you a device with good battery life that's cool. It's obviously quiet. There's no fans or anything in it like any other tablet. Because of the change in architecture, you can't load your typical desktop apps on it. You have to make do with what is included as far as desktop apps go, because there is a desktop, which is a confusing paradigm that you've probably heard about with Windows 8. But you're limited to the ones that are included, which is Office and Notepad, Windows Explorer, just the basic stuff that any computer comes with. So as far as new software goes, you're forced to use the Windows Store, which when I first got this device 6 months ago was a bit of a death sentence, but it's gradually getting better. The apps, however, they don't stack up with what you get both in number and quality with what you get from the Google Play Store or Apple's App Store. Unfortunately, also with the built-in apps, there's no Outlook included, and honestly, that is the one thing from Office that I use constantly. So you're stuck with the built-in Mail app, which is really, really bad. It's slow. It is just lacking in features. It's got an ugly color scheme. It's really, really embarrassing. Microsoft has made some moves to improve it. There was a recent update that included the ability to flag items. You couldn't flag items when it first was released. It's just kind of ridiculous. It was just about the most basic mail app you could imagine. And that honestly wouldn't be that bad if it wasn't so slow. And a lot of that is the Surface. It's slow overall, but the app itself had some problems, just judging from using it on other Windows 8 machines. So yeah, the Surface is slow. Everything you open is going to have a splash screen, first of all, which isn't a big deal if it goes away fast. These don't. So a lot of times you'll open an app, and then you'll see a splash screen, and then you'll see a loading cursor, and then finally you'll get into your app. And sometimes you won't even see content in your app. It'll load sort of a framework, and then things will fill in. It's frustrating. It really is. I think that there is the horsepower there in this device, even though it uses an older processor. I think it's just a matter of redesigning apps to work with this new framework. A lot of developers, Microsoft included, just hasn't had the time or the willingness to get their apps to run smoothly in this new architecture. So it may seem like I'm being overly negative about the Surface, but truthfully, after having owned it for about 6 months, there are some scenarios that I found that it really excels at. First and foremost is business travel. You got a device, it's slim, it's lightweight, it's got good battery life. It fits on an airline tray table, no problem. You can get some work done on your flight. And when you get where you're going, you have a device with more capability than most tablets. You could plug it in to a monitor and connect Bluetooth keyboard and mouse and have the equivalent of a desktop computer. It's going to be a slow desktop computer, but to me, I'd much rather work at a desktop than hunched over tablet with a small screen, and while the type cover or touch cover is very good, I wouldn't want to use it all day. So that's an option. Additionally, if you're giving a presentation, say your coworker has a presentation on a USB key, pop it into the USB port, connect this to a projector or a conference room television, and away you go with your presentation. When you get back to your hotel, if your hotel is nice enough to have a modern TV with an HDMI port, you can hook it up and, say, stream a movie. Last hotel I stayed at had a TV like that, but unfortunately they had disabled the HDMI port. I guess they really wanted you to buy that pay-per-view movie. Also, on the couch at home, it's a perfectly serviceable tablet just for browsing the web. Internet Explorer is pretty basic, but gets the job done. Pages render well. Nothing unexpected or bad there. However, I do find myself, when sitting on the couch, putting it down and picking up my wife's iPad mini sometimes. The apps are just lacking. We have several devices that have companion apps that just aren't there for Windows devices. The big one is our Nest thermostat, so I can't control the Nest temperature up or down while I sit on the couch. From this, TiVo, there's no TiVo app to schedule recordings, etc. And there are some Roku apps for our Roku streaming device, but they're pretty basic and not very impressive. So there's still a negative there. So that's really the surface of Windows RT in a nutshell. It's a bit of a contradiction. It's not really a laptop, it's not really a tablet, and it doesn't really succeed either way. And that's typical of most convergence devices. Really wanted it to kind of break the mold in that regard, but unfortunately it doesn't. I do find myself loving it and hating it because of this. Usually I'm loving it when I come back from a business trip and I say, wow, I was so productive during that trip. Surface really did everything I needed it to. And then, as soon as I put it down and pick up an iPad, I'm like, wow, that stinks. I do think it's a good start for Microsoft in the tablet space, sort of working their way into it with a more familiar setup in the laptop features of it. I think it encourages other manufacturers to step up their game to offer new and inventive form factors and tablet accessories. Hopefully we start seeing some copycat touch and type cover type things for other tablets that are as slick as this one is. I'm really interested to see what they do as a follow-up to the Surface of Windows RT. To have something with a little more power maybe, but it still has good battery life and is quiet and cool like this would be really nice. Supposedly there's a 7-inch version in the works. I'm interested to see how that works out. It's a good first step. And maybe they'll improve on some of the other gripes I have. But all in all, if you're someone who travels extensively for business, you might be able to get away with it as taking it as your only device. That would be really nice. It's lightweight and but still capable. If you're just looking for an everyday home tablet for surfing the web and downloading a bunch of apps that do different things, you're really better off with something like an iPad or an Android device. So that's it. That's the Surface of Windows RT. And I'm Patrick from Pachyderm.